So here we go. We're going to talk about my 2017 story. How altcoins technically put me on the path to a new life, riches, wealth. And I'm very fortunate to say that I'm still here, surviving. And more importantly, that wealth has created even more opportunities in my life. But I got to remember I was very, very lucky. So this video, we're going to talk about what was happening in the space at the time in terms of the news, how many times Bitcoin technically died in terms of the media, historic time shots, and my portfolio in terms of how I somewhat grew it randomly with random shit coins and still living to tell the tale. So hello, if you're new, like, subscribe to see more of the story. I've got a couple more years to do as well, considering how long I've been in the space. If you've not watched the previous video, 2016, it is in the link below. Okay, so let's talk about the obvious. The news was interesting in 2017, and there was a lot of elements around regulation. There was a crackdown in China on exchanges, the SEC report on the Dow, all kinds of stuff happened. Obviously, the Dow was a big, massive hack in the previous year. And when we talk about stuff and things and what's going on, you can see the big three Bitcoin exchanges, certainly in China, was somewhat of a problem. Had wallets frozen, new trading fees, and all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff. Now, when I talk about my own emotions in this space, I was new. I wasn't really looking at the news like this back, not like what I do now. And I was only holding Bitcoin. Now, you probably noticed one thing that I do in my portfolio back in these days was one, I was new. Two, I did it in pounds. And three, I didn't really put Bitcoin in my portfolio. I just kind of held it elsewhere because I didn't think I needed to. Right now, obviously, yes, I do keep my Bitcoin on track. But back in those days, it was a little bit odd. But then you got obviously ICOs and stuff like that, illegally selling distribution tokens back in the day. Obviously, things went a bit crazy. We will come on to that. Rumors circulate that the SEC would move to define how it would regulate ICOs. Yep, they didn't do that until after everything went a bit berserk. And there was all the kind of stuff around the funding models of how ICOs were kind of working. Now you can't really see them in terms of what it was in the past. So that was interesting. And yeah, there was a lot of wealth created from ICOs, technically. You had stuff around Russia, in terms of like regulation of cryptocurrency in Russia. So little bits and pieces were happening, and it was very much a regulatory kind of thing. Not to mention, certain bits and pieces that were coming out in terms of scams, which, again, we will come on to in a little bit. Now, the ICO was a kind of the element around it. So what was happening? Bitcoin was absolutely the obvious back in those days, right? And there was a couple of things coming out, such as Ethereum. Even though Ethereum obviously got hacked and stuff, and Ethereum Classic and stuff, yeah, but things were starting to move. People were starting to see, oh, smart contracts, we can develop and use blockchain technology and ultimately create an asset. That happened. Most of the assets that you know and love today, maybe, maybe not, were created on Ethereum, and they were done via ICOs. Tron, for example, EOS, VeChain, random example. There's quite a few out there that you probably know and think, well, bloody hell, they've got their own chain. Oh, where did they start from? Oh, what, they were an Ethereum token? Oh, wow. So the ICO boom, it's kind of indicated that it started since 2013, but it didn't really do anything until realistically 2016 and then into 2017, where it really, really took off. 2017 got off to a slow start. Only 7 ICOs were documented in the first year, or the first quarter of the year, sorry, raising an estimated 28 million. But the next quarter, they increased by 4 times to 25, 402 million, bringing an estimate of, yeah. And then it got mental, like really, really mental. In terms of that, it just went bang, bang, bang. It snowballed to the point of $4.9 billion was raised in 2017 in ICOs. And that is actually a staggering amount when you consider back, how new they were. And this one here, if you have never heard of Block.one, it's basically EOS. Another big one was actually Filecoin. Filecoin raised 258 million, but it actually wasn't released until a couple of years after. It was absolutely crazy. And then again, you saw the same sort of system element here of new technology, same investors. the VCs, they actually generated and invested more money in 2016 than 2017. A lot of retail people got in the ICOs, and that was the most important factor here. And that's what made it really, really interesting to note that we had an opportunity as a retail investor to invest in these. And right now, you can't do that, right? For obvious reasons with regulation. But the bubble did pop massively. And this is a funny article because it literally is right as the bubble was popping. And obviously, the next video of 2018, I will talk about that. So, yeah, all fun. Other things that fueled the fire was stuff like this, essentially BitConnect. And it closed on the 16th of January 2018. And there was a lot of people hyping this up. I never got involved in BitConnect, but there was a lot of people that did. And it created a lot of money for a lot of people. And this was a really top ranking coin. You will see that when I go through the historic time shots. It was crazy. And look at the block reward of how much, you could be creating and the return of investment and stuff. It was absolutely boggling. And when we talk about like Ponzi schemes and stuff, the ICO was 17 cents. It rose to an all-time high of $463 in December of 2017. What? That is madness, right? So all kinds of stuff around that. And there's still probably people right now that are still absolutely in pieces from this. And it's crazy. And yeah, we talk about obviously Carlos Matos with the whole BitConnect kind of meme and stuff. And it's just mad. But also you got other ones here, One Token, Plus Token, USI Tech was another one, which was around about that sort of time frame, I believe. And there's other ones out there as well. When you talk about like riches and quick rich schemes and all kinds of stuff. And I want to come onto my Facebook group at the end. And even today, right now, that Facebook group still exists from 2017. I get asked, is there a really easy way to make money via Bitcoin mining? Because these sort of things have really like fucked with people's brains because people think that they can just put their money into a system and it's going to make them money. Really? Come on now. So yeah, that's huge. Let's talk about something really fun though. Remember the whole Bitcoin is rat poison and all that kind of stuff, and that Bitcoin's going to blow up and it's going to go to zero. JP Morgan boss, Jamie Dimon, cryptocurrency is only fit for one thing: drug dealers, murderers, and people live in North Korea. What on earth? So stuff like this was really, really big back in 2017, massive. When we talk about hated rally, the hated rally was 2017. It really, really was. Nothing close comes to it. And when we talk about stuff like that, 125 times we have had deaths in terms of Bitcoin. That is madness. And if I go to this year, you'll see it. There's lots. There's so much. Why Bitcoin investors like stamp collectors? Bitcoin is the biggest Ponzi scheme in human history. The biggest Bitcoin scam. And they're not from small fucking sources, neither. Huffington Post, Bloomberg, all kinds of stuff. And it's absolutely mad. And this is all back in 2017 alone. The Wolf of Wall Street, who's a scammer himself. Bitcoin is a huge, gigantic scam. He warns investors. The irony, right? So, yeah, stuff like this was massive. Bitcoin buyers should be prepared to lose all their money. Anyways, moving on. In terms of returns of 2017, we saw the biggest pretty much going. Apart from, obviously, back in the early days when there was no adoption. But when you think about adoption, post Mt. Gox and all that kind of stuff, it was a fantastic year. Obviously, we've got to talk about 2018 in the next video. Like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of good stuff. And by the way, comment if you were around in this space. And if I am tickling some old kind of wounds for you, I do apologize. But feel free to let me know. But yeah, you can see January was quite slow into a very, very bullish Q2, into a very modest, probably the best Q3 nearly on record, into a very, very bullish Q4. So in terms of YouTubers back in the day that I used to watch, there's quite a few back in the day. Not many, wasn't many to choose from. Right now there's too many. And Ian Bleeder was one. He did a lot of ICOs. You can see there's a video here on ICOs. You also had people like Crypto Daily, who was a fantastic content creator, but vanished off the face of the earth. Don't know what happened. Rumors of money was taken, and that was it, kind of, I think. Don't know if that's true or not. However, really, really good, funny content, and that was really, really good. And this was like 3 years ago, but he was around for quite a while. If I look back in the olden days, some of his stuff was pretty decent, and his content grew and grew and got better and better. Another one that was a lot more technical back in the day was box mining, in terms of mining and other bits and pieces. Really, really popular in terms of the technical stuff. But yeah, it's changed a lot since then. But let's look at some altcoins and let's see what happened from the start of January to the end. So in terms of the obvious here, what I do like about this page, the historic time shots, they've kept it to the old page. I love that. So this was the 1st of January. Bitcoin was just under $1,000. Ethereum was $8. XRP was whatever that is. You get the idea. So things are really, really good. And we'll talk about my altcoin story in a second, but this changes a lot because if I just go and just zoom down, there's obviously not a lot here. You can see it. Look at Tether, hardly ever used. And it was literally on, what was it called? Bitfinex. And a lot of this absolutely horrendous. Going on to, though, the end of the year, everything is different. XRP is nearly today's price, which is mad. Oh, I shouldn't really say that. That's probably upset people. But you get the idea, right? Ethereum, $756. Bitcoin Cash, 2,500. Wow. Cardano, 71 cents. Some absolutely crazy assets here. And that's the thing. All of it, like even Bitcoin Gold was a thing back in those days. Verge, people will know what Verge is because of that monster run. There you go. There's BitConnect, right? Absolutely crazy. All of this stuff is a massive growth for the industry. And you can see how much things have massively, massively changed. Electronium, I did very, very well with Electronium. But one thing that's going to scare you a little bit. This was before the real big boom in altcoins. Altcoins had like a 2-week period post this here where it went absolutely crazy. And I'll cover that on the next video when I cover the 2018 version. So now it's time to look at prices, my portfolio, and what happened, and going all the way up to December the 23rd, which was the last screenshot I have for this year. And this is roughly March time, and I know I apologize here. It was all done in pounds. Oh, such a newbie. But realistically, I was first buying my Ethereum and Litecoin on Coinbase. I had a account on Poloniex and Bitfinex and Cryptopia, which I know has gone bust now. Back in the day, I mentioned that in the previous video of the 2016 version, and I was starting to dabble with altcoins. And this is just going to showcase like the rise in the market. And this is just giving you an idea that I had 1.5 Ethereum and I had 7 Litecoin. This was me just messing about with Coinbase back in the day. Oh God, memories. And then when we move into like Bitcoin and little bits of Bitcoin I'd laying around and stuff. And as I say, I bought Bitcoin, I just held it in a wallet and I didn't put it on any portfolio tracker. This was before I was using portfolio trackers as well. And I just left that and I put a percentage of my Bitcoin into altcoins just to have a bit of fun with and understand, because back in those days, you had to put Bitcoin into an exchange to buy altcoins. It was very, very different. Tether wasn't a thing, as I've just alluded to it. And then when we go into this, you can see how crazy spikes go up and how things have grown quite a bit ever, like over the course of the day. And nothing crazy, but enough to get people noticing. This was like a $2,000 Bitcoin. This was like all-time high. We're going up, right? This is crazy. And this is when a lot of people were like, oh, Bitcoin. And a lot of big influencers back in those days, like content creators on YouTube, were selling. Tony Vase, for example, sold at $4,000 and tried to short it to make money because it was double the all-time high back in those days. Obviously, it went from to $20,000, right? So stuff like that, huge. This is one of the exchange screenshots I randomly had back in the day. You can see how the pop-offs are happening. And you can see that the price technically is all done in pretty much Bitcoin, which is mad. Bitcoin. Crazy. So yeah, I think that could be maybe Poloniex, actually. I'm not 100% sure. Moving on, though, we've got to talk about altcoins that I had. I had Neo. Neo. I have Neo now, but I have Neo then. And it was all called Ant Shares, and I bought Ant Shares quite low. And I sold it pretty quickly, but I kept a little bit. And I wish I held on for a long time. It was the one that really, for the first time, when I look at the market in terms of altcoins, it was the one that gave me the quickest move, right? In terms of like, oof, hello. It was rank 7 back in the day as well. Certainly this time. And it went up to like $200, $300 or whatever. I can't remember where it went up to. It went to some crazy numbers. And I only had so many, but I did actually sell a, a little bit because I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So I bought more other random stuff with it. I remember like buying something. If it popped off, I'd buy other things because I didn't really have much money back in those days. And you can see here now, this screenshot was done in September. In September of 2017, and I had that much money in my account. And again, it's in Great British pounds. Woohoo. And this was kind of like how I was getting really started into it and figuring out things. And obviously, a little bit of XRP. I had XRP before that, and I sold it. I fumbled the bag on XRP. And it's kind of mad when you think like how this portfolio does evolve. And again, I will say the obvious. Altcoins, didn't have a clue. I understood the basics of how to do the Bitcoin side of it, how to buy and invest and hold and store it away. And that's what people wanted to know back in the day. So I created a Facebook group and I showed people, right, this is how you buy Bitcoin on, say, Coinbase or blockchain.com back in the day and other little random exchanges that were very, very easy to use. But to some people, the QR code, waiting for the time to go. Oh, it was so mad. It was so, it's like, oh, you must do this and then wait for the time thing to go. And then you've got your confirmation. Boom, block. It's a lot easier now. But yeah, things were different back then. This was going, I think, 2 weeks later, pretty much, as things went a bit crazy. I bought more things and it went up to 2000. This was in October of 2017. And I've done a video based off this in the past, but we're going to be a lot more deeper with this one. It grew pretty quickly. And you're going to see that going to the 23rd of December. When you think October to the 23rd of December, and now I remember I was in America back in the day, and I was thinking about my career, and I decided to leave the Air Force job because I wanted to come home, and ultimately I wasn't very happy. I had a job where I traveled the world, I lived it all, and then I went to being a dog handler, which was nowhere near as good, by the way, in terms of night shifts and what I had to do. And I just wanted out and I wanted to go back home, and I was living 4 hours away from home and stuff, and it was a bit shit. So I didn't think that I would become full-time in crypto based off the fact that I wanted to quit. And then that was the thing that I did. And I'm still here. Hiya. Absolute madness, right? But moving forward, Electronium went live. Electronium was the first ICO that I bought into that went live. It did all right. I put a little bit of Bitcoin in there. I can't remember how much now off the top of my head. But it returned some big wonga. Massive. And it totally blew. Look, you can see. That's how much I made. What? So when you talk about ICOs, it was just madness. It really, really was. And it was crazy back in the day. And that was on Cryptopia. And Cryptopia was a really odd exchange. And it went bust not too long after it, to be honest with you. Luckily, I sold. But if you do like rough sort of price estimations in terms of what the Bitcoin value would have been back in those days, my Bitcoin was growing significantly. If only I knew more about Bitcoin dominance and being able to sell in Bitcoin. Regret, obviously. But moving forward into now, this screenshot was from, I think, the 7th of December. Electronium held its price pretty well. Percentage-wise, I am up 9% on the day. And some random shit I didn't even know what I had back in those days. I had Cardano. That was like the initial element of Cardano. Bought a decent chunk and it did all right. That was only at 9 cents back in the 9p, sorry, probably about 12, 11 cents back in the day. And then you've got Alexia. Alexia, this was a random coin that was hyped up pretty much on YouTube, and this created me a lot of money. I think I invested £500 and it turned into like 29, 30,000, give or take, roughly around those numbers, crazy amounts. And Power Ledger, that's still going today. But yeah, you can see how things really started to ramp. And this was only, a month, 6 weeks after that initial kind of £2,000 worth. And this is a final screenshot here. 61,000. And this was on the 23rd of December. Now, as I say, I've got another video to come. And I was taking little bits of money out of the market and I was putting Bitcoin in. Now, I had more than this because I had Bitcoin laying around from, when I bought Bitcoin, and I didn't put it in my portfolio much. And I was buying other random shit. And I just kept buying random shit, hoping it was going to go higher and hoping it was going to go higher until it didn't, right? But again, you can see on the right-hand side there, 15% growth over the last 24 hours. It was mental. Mental. If your portfolio grows, your entire portfolio as an average by 15%, you've had a good day. But this was very much normal back in that 8 to 12 week period. It was very much normal. But look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin was up 16%. It was outperforming most altcoins. That's the mental thing about it. It's like, fucking hell. Crazy, right? But that's kind of where the journey ends here, because I've got no more screenshots. But the reality is here, if I go back to that historic time shot, we know what the last day was. It was higher. Things were higher. Cardano was 71. Look at the last 7 days here. Fucking Jesus. You know, it's madness, right? And that's only on that time period. If I go reverse a week to pretty much where that screenshot was, the volatility would eat you alive on some of these. Some of them were going mental. Like obviously Verge was going crazy. Qtum was going mental, right? Neem, fucking hell, I said that word. But some of the other ones were just going mental. And this is where it gets really wild. And I go back one more week. Look at that. The previous week, Bitcoin topped, right? Bitcoin topped that week. And then we had a slow regression. I wouldn't say it was slow, but it was enough to kind of bounce a little bit, and it did. And that's what created that alt season that went berserk, right? And this is what we're going to follow on to later on in another video. But you can see here how this was when the market burst and everyone went piloting, and then it went even higher and higher than you ever think. And the final thing to mention here is the Facebook group. Why? Because people were piling into it. Now, this is Learning Crypto now. I've rebranded it, but it was mental. This is someone's portfolio. Crazy, I know. But everyone was buzzing to get in this. This was going wild. Now, we're talking like a Facebook group of 300 people to like 4,000 in a matter of like 6 weeks. And you can see these are just some of the posts. These are just like me I just put like replies. These are basically all the ones that tagged me. My old Facebook group's now been deleted. Got another one now. A Facebook page, sorry, profile. And these are all people that were tagging me or something, and as you can see, and that's just like my word there. It's mad. So there you go. A little bit random for you. There's a video that is getting swirled around my head in a minute. It's a 2016 story. Feel free to watch that if you've not yet done so.